Hey everybody, I'm Dan Lapel for New Focus Recordings. I'm joined by Connor Harris and Pauline Kim Harris of String Noise. They have a really great record coming out on the 13th of May, FCR 317. It's called Way, and it features three premieres by Alex Minchek, Lou Bunk, and Catherine Lamb. The Lamb is also a premiere, right? Recording?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great.
Mhm.
Sweet. Cool. How's it going?
Great.
Good, yeah.
Good, good.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Good. Good.
Yeah, so this is a really cool collection. It's pretty intense rep, fairly sort of austere album, but I think it draws us into some really sort of cool and I don't know, pretty in the weeds type of parameters that you can get between two violins. A lot of stuff with subtleties of pitch and beatings and I guess
Yeah.
Lou's piece focuses a bit more on like pacing and sound and silence and stuff like that. Um, how long have you guys been playing these pieces? Maybe give us a rundown on the quote unquote
Well,
anthology of them.
Lou's piece, as he talks about it in the program notes, but he started it a long time ago. Well, relatively long time ago, and he kept sending us pieces of the piece and little snippets, and then he kind of
That thick.
yeah, it's a thick piece,
Oh wow.
and he kept sending us
It's
bits
hard
of it.
sour.
And and then I think he took a break. He had he had to take a complete break from it. And then he also had two children, I think, in the interim. And then so he got it finished, and after about 500 hours of composition
Plus.
plus or whatever. And so that was man, was that in what 2012 or 13?
Yeah, he started it.
Um,
We recorded it 2019
hmm.
because Alex's piece we premiered in 2015 and recorded it in 2017.
Oh, it's been that long?
Oh, no, he wrote it in 2016 and we recorded it in 2017.
Okay.
So in between each of the pieces, we had a 2-year gap. It wasn't planned that way.
It just we had these pieces come to us and we loved them all, so we recorded them when
As they became
as they became available, and we performed them and recorded them, and then we thought, man, this would be a perfect, like these three pieces together,
Yeah.
because they're so
Mix it up.
concentrated on texture and timbre,
Yeah. Totally.
and in Lou's piece a lot of silence, but
Right.
they just seem to really fit together really well. So
Yeah, it's always interesting. I mean, I feel like there's two kinds of recording projects. There's the kind of project that's like very intentional from the get-go. Like here's the rep. A lot of times that'll be like one big piece or two pieces.
right.
And everything is really sort of like, and then there's what I feel like is, at least for me, the more common scenario where there's pieces that I get into the studio, get them into the can, and then later it reveals itself. Oh wow,
Yeah.
here's an album. Like this.
Right.
You really necessarily think about it, but this is like these things belong together.
Right.
I think this is the first time we did that second type of
Yeah.
album. I think usually we have an idea and then we do it, but
Yeah.
this in a way was more organic. It just kind of these pieces came and when we thought they were ready and we felt like we needed to record them at when we did and perform them when we did, and so we had them all together and anyway.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not. One is not necessarily, more advantageous than another or more cohesive. It's just an interesting sort of component to the process of recording this type of repertoire. Especially a piece like Alex's piece is so intense and epic.
Mhm.
You know, it would be hard to imagine even doing a session on that piece when you also had to play two other pieces like that day or the next day. It's just like
Right, like in the
much.
weekend, like, yeah, I know. Yeah,
That's the kind of project you really just need to be very focused on, you know, for
just that
whatever a
piece.
month. Like, you know, we know we're recording this, and you know.
Absolutely.
So well, speaking of Alex Minchek's piece, let's get a little bit more specific about it, and then listen to
Yeah,
excerpt.
I just wanted to add on the
Oh,
album
sure.
concept too, though,
Yeah.
is that this is possibly like a really exciting example of what string noise has been doing over the years. Sort of like these three works encompasses such a broad spectrum of what two violins could sound like,
Yeah.
and um, and so because our first album obviously was like punk covers,
Right.
and then some originals by Eric Lyon, and then our first release with New Focus was the concept of a concerto grosso with international contemporary ensemble
Right.
and string noise. So now this really brings back us to like string noise, you know, like
Yeah.
in the technical sense of it. In
Right. This is like OG string noise, right?
yeah.
This
So
is the
it's
real,
really
like, authentic. I
yeah,
mean, it's true. Obviously, the Giga Concerto is going to be like an outlier. Just it's such a big project, and
yeah,
the kind of thing that just doesn't come along that often for any of us that were involved. So,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, it's great to be able to sort of have this balance between this album, which is very much like right down the center of what you guys have been doing since you started the project.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, give us a little bit more sort of musical context for Alex Minchek's piece.
So yeah, so we have the score to that too.
Great.
It's a
Yeah,
very nice looking, beautifully
yeah. It's
handwritten
hard to see
score.
close up,
Yeah.
but it's handwritten. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Um,
Yeah, it begins with pretty much no pitch for quite a while.
Yeah.
And he talks about how, you know, the left hand is kind of fixed, and also the right hand is kind of doing the same thing, but the only variable is kind of the pressure. And then it kind of evolves into something after a couple minutes, what this one reviewer said sounded to him like a square dance from Mars. That's what he said.
Right. A Martian square dance. I think. Yeah.
Martian square dance.
Yeah.
I'm not really. I was trying to envision that. I don't really know what that would look like, but or sound, let
Well,
alone
we
sound
do know
like.
what it would sound like because we have it on Alex's piece. But
that's right.
Right, that's true. We now know what it sounds like.
yeah.
So that was that. You know, sonically, it is a. I mean, the piece is almost a half hour long, so it does. It's good to start with such a slow evolution into the world of pitch and take a couple minutes before we hear real concrete sonorities. And I like that he references Luigi Nono's duo. Luigi Nono is one of my favorite composers, and his piece that we have done actually for two violins called Heike Caminar Sognando. So he references that, and even the title of the piece, "Way," comes from the poem that was definitely referential in Luigi Nono's piece.
Yeah. And in the program note, Alex talks about that was pretty interesting. This idea that he sort of sets up restrictions, and then
Mm-hmm.
the duo finds a way to sort of move through them as these
Right. It's all
as these
about
different
pathways.
or yeah pathways, right? Like
Yeah.
as these sort of
Yeah.
different parameters are being
Mm-hmm.
navigated. So in a sense, the piece is several of those sort of, you know, sets of restrictions as they morph
Hmm.
one to another.
Yeah,
With sort of 5 or 6 of them, I guess.
right. And kind of freeze up eventually.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
let's listen to a little bit of the Martian dance,
Uh,
unofficially titled Martian Square Dance section of Alex Minchek's piece Way. Great. So yeah, so Lou Bunk's piece is the sort of longest standing open project on the record, right? Um,
yeah,
and it's also the only multi-movement piece on the record. It's 5 movements long. Uh,
right.
all of them getting progressively shorter.
Yeah.
Very interesting structural
Hmm.
uh, arc. Why don't you talk about sort of the general sound world of this one, and maybe introduce the excerpt we're going to take a listen to?
So another really interesting thing about the three pieces overall is the very unique notations that each composer has to describe different speeds of bow, placement of the bow, pressure of the bow. In blues, it's pretty, I mean, it's notated with notes like themselves, but then he has these like squares that are filled in with dots that indicate speed and pressure, and then off to the side in the staff he'll tell us where on the body of the instrument you also play. So it could be like just on the strings or soltasta or close to the bridge or on the body or on the neck or the the what do you call the head,
The
or
scroll or
just
the nut
all
or
different parts of the violin. So he really explores the body of the instrument, which is
Hmm.
super
and sometimes
interesting.
both the string and the body of the instrument, you angle the bow.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, it's so it is. He kind of, other composers have done similar things, but it's really like a different code or different language almost. If his notation of, because it's so specific where you put the bow and how much pressure and the speed and everything. So
And
it's a
because
lot of,
there are specific notes to be played, that's
oh yeah, notes.
what creates a melodic dialogue between the two violins. And those moments are meant to just kind of, um, jump out and then go away. And so a lot of like, so the timbre of like these different explorations of the body of the instrument then become a very present and identifiable sound, or and then you hear it between the two violins, and then it becomes some kind of a melodic counterpoint. So I feel like that's sort of what he develops throughout the piece. It's also very long altogether. I don't know, I didn't add up all the track timings, but the 5 movements put together is in itself probably about a half an hour.
And he plays a lot with silence too. That's very important in his music. And he talks about, I don't know, in reference to the title, the field, like distance, and putting and experimenting with putting silences like in the middle of a phrase, or not just at the end of when you would expect it after a decrescendo or a rallentando or something like that. So that was another interesting aspect when we were approaching this piece.
Yeah, it's in one way or the other, all 3 of these composers sort of created a context that doesn't have a lot of fat. There's not a lot of musical fat in any of these pieces. They're like very lean and really focusing on subtleties, and I think if there was more sort of, you know, accoutrement hanging off the music, it would be harder to get to the essence of what they're all 3 of them is sort of trying to ask the listener to focus on. So there's contrasts, and Lou is probably the most contrasting piece, I think. There's more in common between Alex's piece and Catherine's piece, but that quality of sort of austerity and leanness seems to be something that's common to the whole record. Great. So let's listen to the opening of the first movement, right? Anything you want to say before we launch in, or just let this one speak?
I'd just say let it rip.
All right. Great. So this is movement 1 from Lou Bunk's Feel. Great. So the final piece on the record, also sort of on the long side, 12 minutes long, is by Catherine Lamb, titled In Tone, but in is in parentheses, so that there's sort of like a dual relationship between those words. Give us a sort of overview of this piece.
Well, her music is very, well, she focuses a lot on microtones
And tuning.
Like to the extreme.
Yeah.
And it just creates a kind of just a completely different sound than what you were kind of thinking you were going to hear from 2 violins. The sonorities are just they kind of sparkle in a way
Mm.
at times, and sometimes are brighter and sometimes a little darker just because of the way the sonorities and the resonance works. She describes them as colors a lot.
Yeah.
He said there's a lot of whites and yellows and then a little bit of orange at
Yeah.
the end. And or maybe it wasn't at the end, but it just they some sonorities kind of, I wouldn't say jump out at you, but they definitely emerge. And I'm staring at the album cover behind you, and I never really thought of it, but it's I think those colors are kind of work for her piece.
Ah, right. Oh, interesting. Cool.
And hence the tuning fork in the A
And the tuning fork, right?
of the A.
It's all coming together.
Yeah, right. It's not, the image isn't quite big enough to see the end of the tuning fork, but
Oh, you'll just have to get
you
the
just have to
CD.
buy the album.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have to get
I
the
mean-
album to see it.
Yeah, you know, this, I guess it's the same idea. I mean, to really focus the ear on the level of subtlety that she's engaging with pitch. It almost, I mean, it doesn't absolutely demand this sort of very like zoomed in sort of musical parameter approach, but I think it really helps. You know, I mean, it's hard to
Mhm.
imagine how we would pick up those subtleties, much less how performers would execute them in a context where there were a lot of other parameters sort of at work. You know,
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know a ton of her music, but I feel like a good deal of it is similar in this way, right? It's sort of slow moving and really drawing you into extremely subtle pitch discrepancies and
Mhm.
colors of
And
interval and stuff.
and what happens is in those subtle shifts, the tonality, not only does the tonality change, but just the physical vibrations of what's happening. So our instruments at one point, when the tuning just got right in that pocket, started to sound like an organ
Oh,
rather than an instrument that was
That's
being
right.
bowed. So it just became this other energy of sound. And you forgot you were listening to two violins. And
yeah.
Ryan just captured that so incredibly in this recording, and we're so excited.
Yeah.
We had Catherine in the room because it was the last piece we recorded. And it was actually in 2021.
Right.
And even though it was the first piece, one of the first earliest pieces that String Noise ever performed.
Ah, cool. Okay.
So we had her,
Via Zoom.
yeah, zooming in,
Mm.
and we heard her voice through a speaker in the
Yeah,
studio.
sure.
It was such an incredible process.
Yeah. No, when those, I mean, obviously, pitch is always physical, but
Yes.
I think a lot of times we don't feel it, you know, or there's a lot of other things going on in our mind or in the material, and so you're not in the moments when it literally becomes physical
Mhm.
in a musical experience are always really sort of impactful, I think. You know?
Yes.
And sort of capture that on a recording is very
Yeah. It was great to have her there because she has such incredible ears
Yeah.
too.
And this is what her score looks like.
nice. Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for
Sorry.
taking these score excerpts out. It's great to see this.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's a lot of overlapping between the two violins. So one person will start the pitch, the other one will take it.
Right,
Or
yeah.
and then it just kind of builds and morphs that way. Very cool. And timing is indicated by like breath marks
Yeah.
and with the slur, the phrases. So it's a very unique notation that I really enjoy.
So are you guys not always moving? It's like one person will be on a fixed pitch and then the other one will move to find the interval.
Right.
and
We move at different times,
move at different times,
and the
right?
phrasings overlap too. We kind of take breaths at different points too.
There's a moment where you're sort of aiming to try to find the verticality, right?
There is, but
Yes.
it never quite is meant to line up.
Right, 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 right. Well, or
Yeah.
it sort of gets there and then it moves on to some
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
sort of alignment point or whatever. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear some of the beginning of Catherine Lamb's intone. Check out this very sort of beautiful meditative texture. Well, thanks so much for hopping on Zoom on a Saturday morning, guys. It was great to talk to you about
Thanks so much for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
us.
Yeah.
very exciting.
Yeah.
And you're doing a release event at Roulette on
Right.
Sunday, May 15th at 8
Yes.
p.m.,
We are.
right? And
Yeah.
that will include a performance of Alex Minchek's Way, which has got to be a special event. I mean, how many times can you make room on a program for a 30-minute violin duo, right?
Absolutely. I think it's kind of epic. So
Yeah.
does that start out the
That
concert?
starts at the concert,
Oh, great. That's so
and
cool.
it will travel throughout. It's a 4-set bill.
Nice.
Billing, and
Who else is playing?
it's going well. So then it goes into an electric acoustic duo with Jesse Stiles, who's an electronic music musician from Pittsburgh. So he's coming in to do a duo project that I'm involved in called Congregation of Drones, and then we'll move into a free long duration improv set with Jesse Cox and
cool. Yeah.
Sam Yulesman and Bethany
Nice.
Young
Great.
in what we call String Noise Sounds. Then the evening will end sort of in a EMD rave style with British pop synth group called Carbs.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like an extremely fun.
And yeah, it'll just end up in a party. Yeah, I
Nice.
hope that's the
That's
idea.
awesome. That's great. That's May 15th at 8 p.m. at Roulette in downtown Brooklyn. And before I forget, let's just mention some other folks that were involved in the record. The album was recorded at Octavian Audio with Ryan Strieber Engineering
Woo!
on October 4th, 2017, June 16th, 2019, and September 9th, 2021. It was produced by you guys, and graphic design and layout by Dustin. That's not an easy. That's not an easy name to pronounce.
Yeah.
Krikotovich, Golden Feelings. I guess that's his company.
Yes.
And Alex Minchek actually did the cover art.
Yeah.
Behind me.
It's just a detail of a large painting.
Oh, of a much larger painting, right?
Mhm.
And the actual CD has some really great and enlightening notes by the three composers, which are cool to read.
And some big photographs.
And a really big photograph. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
That was
Not expected.
somehow.
Somehow, yeah.
somehow didn't realize we had a lot of string noise images. Anyway,
Yeah. Well, congrats again. It's a great project, and as you said, this is sort of like nice counterpart in our catalog with the Giga Concerto, Eric Lyon International Contemporary Ensemble Concertino Concerto thing, which was a wonderful project, but also sort of less core to the string noise sort of consistent mission for the last 10, 12 years. And this album is very much sort of your guys, like the meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
So it's cool to give people a chance to hear it. And it's three very special pieces and very fascinating. So beautifully performed. So thanks
Okay.
again. Great to see you guys. Hope to see you again out there in the world. And
Yes.
absolutely.
for the folks out there, please check out the album String Noise Way. FCR 317 comes out on May 13th, and super cool stuff. All right, take care. See you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.